Well, it's time to review what happened in the Isle of Man in January this year. I'm glad to say we've got a man who knows a fair bit too about what goes on in government, and that's the ex-minister Phil Gawne, who's joining us from his home. Mr. Gawne, first of all, how's it feel now? It's a few months out of government. How's it going for you?
Reasonably relaxed. I mean, obviously, having spent a long time in government and right at the cut and thrust of it, it's hard not to be part of that now. But yeah, the rest of the team, the replacements, seem to be doing a reasonable job. I'm getting a huge amount of work done on the garden at the moment, so yeah, fine.
Okay, well, let's talk about what some things have gone on. The programme for government, this has been obviously this document, what they're planning for the 5 years. I mean, there was Vision 2020 in your time, that sort of thing. What did you make to it, anyway?
I'm a little bit disappointed in as much as I suppose I was expecting with the new brooms that had been elected and with this sort of Brave New World approach that we were promised, that perhaps there was going to be something a bit more radical in it. I have to say, having read through the document, I felt that it wasn't that dissimilar to the Bell administration's agenda for change, the Brown administration's Brown Book, and indeed go back to Donald Gelling's administration, which I served in. That said, I suppose it's almost inevitable that the similar things are going to be in programmes for government, because most issues that exist in the Isle of Man are the same issue, and how you dress them up is obviously the real important thing. So a bit disappointed, not too surprised, and perhaps it's because I'm maybe a little bit too radical. Maybe that's why I'm sitting here and not in the debating chamber. But I had expected it to be a bit more radical. I think as well the fact that it was nodded through without any particular opposition, there is that kind of feel of a Tynwald love-in going on at the moment, which whereas as a minister and a member of government, you were always keen to try and work with colleagues and try and achieve that sort of thing. I think it's hard for the public to understand that everything that government does apparently is wonderful now.
Well, they've had, 100 days or more now, and you're right, it appears that they're all on the same side. That's a slight difference to what you were dealing with, yes? Yeah,
and it's probably a good thing. And ultimately, we're all there, or I'm not there anymore, but Tynwald members are there to do good for the island. They're there to work hard, and obviously, if you're working collaboratively, you're going to be using far more of your creative energies doing good than if you're forever trying to trip each other up. But there is a kind of an important aspect of parliamentary scrutiny, which I mean, I'm not as intensely involved as I was, obviously, but from the casual browsing of the media that I've undertaken the last few months, I don't detect that strong holding government to account line that perhaps has been there in the past.
Okay, well, the Equality Act, that's been picked up. In fact, Claire Betson's made some more amendments. The asexuals and that sort of thing are having a look in, if that's the case now. Your views on that?
Yeah, again, I think it's a hugely important piece of legislation. I heard Chris Thomas earlier in the week valiantly defending the position of the 60 amendments that he was going to have to deal with, and saying this is wonderful that so many MHKs have decided to take this bill seriously and consider it so well. 60 amendments sounds like a lot of amendments. How you then pull all that together to make it into something that's going to work is going to be very, very difficult. And I wish Chris Thomas the best of luck in trying to do that. One thing, though, with the members' eagerness, I think, to open up this equality bill, including things like asexual people, is perhaps they could go back and look at one of the areas that I was hoping to get in but didn't, and that is alongside religious discrimination, perhaps cultural discrimination could be considered as well. There are 2-3% of the population of the Isle of Man are Manx speakers. We still occasionally get situations where Manx speakers are asked to stop speaking that funny language. And perhaps that kind of discrimination should be considered as well.
I've never heard that, but are you telling me people get asked them to stop talking in Manx? So that's incredible.
Yeah, you get snide comments, funny looks, that sort of thing.
Oh, but no one says leave the premises.
Not nowhere near the majority of people, but occasionally that happens, and it can be quite intimidating for the Manx speakers. And I'm only saying this because we appear now to be opening up the Equality Bill to pretty much any consideration that you could think of. Actually, protecting the cultural minority, which is the sort of the native culture of the Isle of Man, doesn't seem like an unreasonable thing to include in the Equality Bill. But that's for others to consider.
I know you want to chat about fisheries a bit, and Minister Boot, how do you reckon he's doing?
Yeah, I've been very impressed, I have to say, with the way Geoffrey Boot has gone about his business as Fisheries Minister, and I know the fishermen have too. I think it's a fantastic job he's done on the king scallop industry, standing up to the incoming fleet, I suppose. There was a serious issue back in November where huge numbers of vessels were, or not so much, actually, it's not so much huge numbers of vessels as the vessels that were coming were taking a very large amount as a daily catch. And there was serious risk to the whole king scallop fishery. And Geoffrey Boot took the very bold decision to say, no, we're going to put a bag limit on. This caused a certain amount of tension, particularly with the Scottish administrations. But I think it shows real clarity and determination, which is very impressive.
And there's been headlines about the fines recently.
Yes,
dredging, though, that comes under. I mean, that was a major hot potato when you were around. I mean, that still now has changed to dumping again, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, again, there was an interesting, and I was surprised how little comment there seemed to be about this. The report that, as it was, my department was asked by the Infrastructure and Environment Committee of Tynwald to report back in January about what we were going to do with the Peel silt issue. So a fairly minimal report was put to Tynwald, basically talking about dumping the silt back to sea. Now, that seemed to go through Tynwald without any significant opposition, which surprised me because there's a fairly serious risk to the fishery. Now, I do hear from behind the scenes, although I don't think there's anything official yet come out, that the dumping of the silt isn't going to happen. But certainly that there is talk of dumping substantial amounts of harbour sand out to sea. Inevitably, that will have some contamination in it. That was the only thing I think that I was surprised, particularly bearing in mind the two ministers concerned are Peel members, and it could have a significant impact on the fishery. I was a bit surprised that seems to be the approach that's been taken.
And before we go, one that obviously I was quite excited about, we actually got some cameras to do some live broadcasting from within the Tynwald chamber. It's taken some time. We've now also signed, or I've still yet to sign mine, but we've still got to get that done, that we have this usage that we can bring cameras into Tynwald, and obviously the budget's coming up in February. Do you think that's going to change things?
I think it will help. I think it's really important that people do have the opportunity to see as well as hear what's going on in Tynwald. The age in which we live, people under my age, probably a little bit more under my age, tend to just look at video clips to get their news. Unfortunately, I suspect that some of the lengthy speeches, particularly with the budget, will be not of the shortness that's going to be required to really capture that younger market, the younger people's attention. But it's a good step in the right direction. I can't for the life of me understand why we didn't do this some considerable time ago. Delighted that Speaker Watterson put forward this suggestion, and it seemed to get full approval from Tynwald. So well done on that one.
Before you go, are you any ideas you want to go be an MLC when the jobs come up there, or are you going to wait and come back, the next general election, or undecided, or what?
Never say never, but at the moment everyone tells me I'm looking a lot younger. I'm feeling a lot happier. The intense pressure that comes with caring about the role that you do, effectively I did nothing but politics for the last decade or more. I'm really enjoying having the opportunity to weed my fruit bushes and going out to the Charlie Kane Manx-style horse ploughing match on Saturday, and all these sorts of things that I never had time to do when I was in politics. It's really good, so I'm enjoying myself, I have to say.